Walking into Calumet today, it's almost impossible not to feel the weight of the history. The streets are quieter now, but they are lined with tall, beautiful brick buildings that once echoed with the sounds of the copper industry. This town was once called Red Jacket, and was the beating heart of Michigan's copper empire. It's here, in the Keweenaw Peninsula, that the United States had its first major copper boom that took hold. And today, the Keweenaw National Historic Park preserves and shares that story, not only as a single site, but as a network of historic places spread across the peninsula. The park isn't made of forests or lakes. It's made of streets, homes, mine shafts, churches, and theaters. It's in the memories of the families who lived and worked here, and in the efforts of the locals today to keep their stories alive. In Calumet, you're not just visiting a historic site, you're walking through a living testament to the rise and fall of an industry that shaped a region and, in many ways, the nation. The story of copper mining here goes way back, thousands of years. Long before Europeans arrived, Native Americans mined pure copper from the pits across the Keweenaw. And archaeological evidence shows tools, trade routes, and artifacts from as far away as the Gulf Coast, proof of the peninsula's long reach. In the 1840s, surveyors and prospectors arrived, eager to tap into what they believed to be an inexhaustible deposits of nearly pure copper, and they weren't wrong. Mines like the Cliff Mine and later the massive Calumet and Hecla operations turned this region into one of the most important industrial hubs in America. The Calumet and Hecla Mining Company, or CNH, was a giant, and by the late 19th century, it was producing over half the nation's copper. And at its peak, it employed thousands of workers and effectively built the town of Calumet from the ground up. As I walked through the town, I can almost imagine the scene in its heyday. Horse-drawn wagons rattling down the street, store windows glowing with goods shipped in from distant cities, and workers lining up at the company offices for their pay. Calumet was more than just a mining town. It was a company town. CNH owned nearly everything: housing, stores, schools, churches, and even hospitals. They provided social halls and theaters, trying to keep workers anchored into the company's orbit. Immigrants poured in from Finland, Cornwall, Italy, Ireland, and even Poland, with each group bringing their culture, food, and faith. Walking past St. Anne's Church, built by the French-Canadian immigrants, or St. Paul the Apostle Church with its towering sandstone facade, it's clear how much these communities leaned on faith in each other. One of the most striking buildings is the Calumet Theater. Built in 1900, it reflected the town's prosperity and ambition. Imagine miners in their best clothes attending an evening performance by a world-famous opera singer, or enjoying Sousa's marching band, moments of escape from the harsh realities underground. The life here wasn't easy. The work was dangerous and grueling, with long hours and cramped, dark shafts. CNH's control meant the workers were tied not only to their jobs but to their homes and daily necessities. It created a fragile balance, one that wouldn't last forever. In 1913, tensions boiled over. The miners organized under the Western Federation of Miners went on strike. They demanded safer conditions, better wages, and an 8-hour workday. For months, Calumet was gripped by conflict. Guards patrolled the streets, families struggled to get by without a steady pay. That December, striking families gathered at the Italian Hall for a Christmas Eve party, in an effort to lift spirits, but tragedy struck. Someone yelled fire, panic ensued, and a stampede down the narrow staircase with over 70 people, most of them children, were caught into the rush and fell victim to the tragedy. Now, only a stone arch remains where the hall once stood. It's impossible not to feel the sorrow that night and the weight of the community lost. The Keweenaw National Historic Park isn't like most parks. Instead of a single boundary, it's a patchwork of over 20 different sites across the peninsula. Museums, preserved buildings, and landmarks telling different pieces of the copper story. Here in Calumet, the park's headquarters and visitor center occupy the old CNH General Office building. Inside, exhibits bring the copper era alive, displays of miners' tools, photos of families in company housing, and oral historians from descendants of those who worked here. Nearby is the Coppertown Mining Museum, where former miners share stories and artifacts that provide a vivid picture of what life was like underground. Walking through these places, you realize this park isn't about preserving buildings, it's about preserving the memory. Today, Calumet feels much quieter, but that quiet still holds the echoes. As you stroll past the many brick buildings, you're surrounded by reminders of a time when this place was a powerhouse of industry and a melting pot of cultures. The Keweenaw Historical Park ensures that the echoes of these don't fade. It's not just about copper, it's about the people who carved out lives here, and about their resilience, their joys, and their struggles, and also to reflect on how much this little corner of Michigan contributed to the larger story of America's growth.